Good evening, this is Ed Hamler with your World in Review. Over the past 48 hours, developments around the world are rapidly fulfilling the warnings that Lyndon LaRouche made since late last year. And it's now becoming imperative that the ultimate warning Mr. LaRouche had played out at that point in time be stopped this week. Because if it is not, the United States will be the aggressor in a thermal war with Russia and China. Today, Russian and Ukrainian special services have arrested a group of Chechen-linked suspects accused of to assassinate Prime Minister Vladimir Putin. The suspects were plotting to kill Putin in Moscow immediately after the March 4th presidential election, in which he will probably become the next president. One of the suspects revealed they had flown to Ukraine from the United Arab Emirates. They got all the instructions from Russia's most wanted terrorist, WWlll. According to one of the suspects, Adam Aliev was already on the international wanted list for earlier assassination plots of the head of Russia's Chechen Republic, Ramzan Kadyrov. Together with other accomplices from Chechnya, he was detained in Moscow in 2007. But due to the lack of evidence, was released on a written pledge not to leave the city. Despite this, he fled to Great Britain and thus was immediately put on the international wanted list, having links with the United Arab Emirates, Turkey, as well as London. This assassination attempt follows the statements made by Russian oligarch Berezovsky, a person who has also spent the last 10 years in exile in Great Britain, knowing he would be immediately tried for against the government and embezzlement if he stayed in Russia. He has recently come out openly calling for regime change in Russia and pushing Vladimir Putin specifically to end up like Gaddafi. With London currently in control of the United States thermonuclear arsenal, part of which settled in the Pacific as we speak, and its history of harboring and deploying terrorism, as we've seen in this period, the last 48 hours to the assassination attempt on Putin should be taken by you as a personal warning of the terrible destruction to come this week surrounding the March 4th Russian election. The game is for the British, already having the United States in their pocket due to Obama being their president, to get future-oriented nations opposed to the British oligarchs submit to slavery under their system, or else. They know what thermonuclear war means, and therefore are trying to bluff these nations in mission. But the truth seems to be that Russia and China both have no intention to submit. This inevitably means thermonuclear war, potentially this week. Now, as terrible as that threat is, the bigger threat is the forces within the United States not only allowing this to happen, but openly making it happen by supporting Barack Obama. The path has been in a full-scale mobilization thing, organizing, mass distributing thousands of copies of a new statement which can be found on this website called Obama's Thermonuclear Arms, President Clinton's Terrible Mistake, which goes to the heart of the fatal error inside the United States. For all intents and purposes, the American citizenry might as well consider themselves in the same position that the Germans were in when Adolf Hitler came to power, and much worse. But we, like them, now have a British-controlled puppet in the chief office of our country committed to genocide, and is also prepared now to be the aggressor in a thermonuclear war that will wipe out the majority of the people on this planet. Despite this knowledge being understood by relevant members of our government, they, like the German Democrats of old, think that there can be a compromise with Hitler, and that support for him in an election campaign season overrides the fact that he is a Hitler and will launch war before the elections. This is exactly the current state of the Democratic Party in the United States, with Bill Clinton and other Democrats making this fatal compromise now. Partisan unity over the principled national interest. want to stop this war, we've got to start from uprooting the corruption from the inside within the United States, which goes to a much deeper cultural trend that has occurred in our nation since the assassination of Kennedy. Mr. LaRouche has warned us that there's been 3 generations of degeneration in the United States, beginning with the JFK assassination. Each successive generation getting worse and worse and worse. And the corruption takes the form of not fighting for this nation and the immortality of it, thinking that the mere survival of the individual is all one's life worth. We now have to uproot that corruption. And that means that in order to overturn this cultural trend, we need unique individuals in society, the ones and twos, the historically small number of unique people, to reject this cultural trend, reject the kind of cowardice that we're seeing from the Democratic Party, and, unfortunately, from Bill Clinton. This means that we citizens, to follow the example of the LaRouche slate of Democrats, for example, who are bucking this cultural trend by putting forward a science-driven program for making sure that our immortality is secure, by making sure that a program like the mission to Mars and galactic colonization becomes the spirit for the economic development now for the United States. This is the kind of collaboration that we can have with Russia and China, and it's precisely for this reason that Obama was to stop that in the United States. So it's precisely for this particular reason now, while the British Empire is collapsing, that the British are going for the Thermonuclear War. They're not going for war because they're in power as such. Their system's finished. They're on a survival mission. They're afraid that if we get rid of Obama, if we team with Russia and China on the science-driven program, an economic program that we know will work, they will be out of existence. So that's our imperative this week. We'll have more reports on the on-ground organizing coming this week, that we're in full-scale mobilization to defeat this. We'll have more reports also on the intelligence matters that were presented in this report. Until that time, good night and contribute.